The end of the beginning. Once upon a time there was a little engine called Edward, who lived on a little railway on a little island. But Edward's trains were getting heavier and heavier, and bigger engines were needed to help. This is a story about the biggest and proudest of them all, and his name was Gordon. Gordon the big engine was a show-off. When he arrived, he was immediately put on display on the big turntable outside the sheds. He was the newest thing in rail traction at the time, and only just managed to fit on said turntable. A crowd gathered all round to look at him, and he was overwhelmed with pride. Edward was chatting to Thomas, the only little tank engine on the main line at that time, when Gordon cut in rudely. "You there, tank engine. I am taking the directors on a special excursion," explained Gordon. "Fetch my coaches and bring them to the station." "Well, if it's so special, you can fetch your coaches and take them to the station yourself," replied Thomas huffily, and snorted away, blowing steam over the new arrival. As Thomas was gone, Gordon ordered Edward to fetch his coaches. "Well," said Edward cheekily, "get off the turntable, and I'll see what I can do." In the end, Edward gently brought the coaches to the platform. Gordon, meanwhile, was not gentle in the slightest. He pumped hard the coaches as he backed down. Edward observed and sighed. "You really needn't do that, you know," he explained. "You see, trucks need to be kept in order, but coaches—" "How long is this railway?" Gordon interrupted. "I'm sorry?" asked Edward. "How long?" "Oh, you know, plenty of space for a good sprint," replied Edward cheerfully. "I see," answered Gordon. There was a long and awkward silence. "And what do you do here?" asked Gordon in a bored voice. "Well, I do whatever needs doing. I've been here since the railway began. Before, in fact." "Do you know what I do, little, Edward?" "Yes." "I am a thoroughbred. I go extremely fast, and I do it extremely well. You managed to keep this nowhere railway above water, but I am going to put it on the map." The guard's whistle blew, and the pompous blue engine pulled out of the station. Gordon was soon thundering along the main line. To Gordon's credit, no engine had ever seen such speed and elegance before. The directors had come to see the new workshops that had been constructed at the other end of the line. Then Gordon was taking them all to a race course for the afternoon's entertainment, and of course, luncheon. The fat director congratulated Gordon when they arrived at the works. "Very impressive, Gordon," he said. "There's a turntable in the yard. Turn yourself around while we examine the workshops." While he was waiting, Henry, another new engine, passed him coughing. Gordon was unimpressed. "If this is the best they have to offer," he said to himself, "this might be somewhere I can make a real difference." By the time Gordon was turned, cold and watered, it was time to go again. Gordon was showing off and didn't really look at what he was doing. He reversed into the coaches, giving them a fearful bump. The fat director wasn't impressed. "A little less gusto if you don't mind, Gordon," he called from the carriages. "My apologies, sir," Gordon replied, but he got angry for that complaint nonetheless. He started off so fast that he wheel slipped badly coming out of the station. Soon the speed and the open line ahead made him forget he was cross, but the sudden turn onto a branch line made him remember. "What is this?" Gordon asked, surprised. "The line to the racecourse, Gordon," his driver replied. "It is a branch line," Gordon stated disgustingly. "Yes," said his driver, "which is why I will have to take it very, very gently." The thoroughbred soon found himself traveling on what he felt was snail space. It's fair to say that he hated the rest of the journey. The degrading experience came to an end when Gordon reached the station, or so he thought. "Come on, Gordon," said his driver. "Let's run around so we can get to the racecourse." Gordon peered across the yard. "I don't see a turntable." "Well, there isn't one." "Well, then I'm not going." And that was that. Gordon refused to move. There was nothing his driver, his fireman, the fat director, or any of the other directors could say to make him move either. At last the fat director gave up. "Put him in that siding over there," he ordered. "I shall talk to him later." Gordon was uncoupled and began to move away. "Frankly, I'm too good for this railway," he muttered. "I'm bigger, I'm stronger, and I'm—" But he didn't finish the sentence, for he derailed at the first set of points he encountered, blocking both siding and main line. It was late in the evening, and Gordon was still stuck. "I never liked these big engines," stated the fat director. "Now we missed our luncheon, not to mention the 2:30. "This is utterly humiliating," said Gordon gloomily. Just then Edward pulled into the station with a passenger train and a special wagon with which he had picked up one of the horses from the racecourse. "Oh, hello," said Edward when he saw the fat director. "I thought you were going to the races with Gordon." Edward glanced at the derailed big engine. "Oh," he said gravely. "Take us home, Edward, please," the fat director almost begged. "I'm not sure there's any room in the carriages, and there's no time to couple up to your train," Edward explained. "There is always the horse box. I hear he's a thoroughbred," he proposed. There was nothing that the directors could do but to travel next to a horse for the rest of the trip back home. When they reached the big station, Edward could hardly keep himself from laughing. The fat director and his special visitors came out of the horse box covered in hay from hat to shoes. The fat director awkwardly thanked the blue engine and then stumbled away to make the arrangements for Gordon's recovery. Late that night, the people living near the engine sheds might have been woken up by the sound of a young tank engine laughing loudly at Gordon. "You mean you were so fat that you split the rails?" gasped Thomas in between laughing. No, no, no. I mean that not all of your little railway is suited to a big, strong engine like me," Gordon tried to explain. "Anyway, I was brought back as a priority matter. Engines like Henry and I, little Thomas, are much too important." "You fetch our trucks and our coaches, Thomas," Gordon went on. "You serve a useful purpose. But it's engines like little Edward over here that I worry about." "Is it really?" Edward asked. "Oh yes, quite. One day the driver won't choose you anymore. You'll prefer big, strong engines like me. Us," he ended, gazing hastily at Henry. "Don't be daft," retorted Thomas. "There's still plenty of life left in you yet, Edward." But Gordon was right. Soon no one came to take Edward out. He was left all alone in the shed. His smart blue paint became rusty and worn, and his joints became stiff. In the darkness, Edward wondered if anyone would ever come and let him be really useful again. Until one day, when driver and fireman saw him and asked him. But that, of course, is another story.